Meyer Lansky was likely the first Mafia muscle from New York, stopping long enough in Las Vegas to scare old bootlegging partner Tony Carnero into leaving the city in the early 30s. Shortly after their meeting, Carnero's casino had a fire. He and his brother skipped town quickly afterwards. Bugsy Siegel and Mo Sedway took a piece of several downtown properties by force as they installed the race wire into the Golden Nugget, El Dorado Club, and the Las Vegas Club. Luciano and Meyer Lansky got a taste. Sedway stayed behind to sign up more casinos. Bugsy returned to Los Angeles, where he had a piece of Tony Carnero's floating casinos and a part of two casinos with Guy McAfee and Farmer Page. Mo Sedway wasn't as tough as Siegel, but he used the boss's name when necessary. They were aligned with New York and sold a piece of the El Cortez to tough Davy Berman, who brought along Willie Icepick Alderman as his muscle from Minnesota, and Lansky bought in for himself at the club, and everyone pitched skim back to New York. Las Vegas was a candy land for Mafia muscle who moved into 6 clubs, sharing when they had to with the Chicago outfit, with Gus Greenbaum, Phoenix's most prolific and connected bookie, taking any remaining juice. Gus was originally from Chicago. First on the Strip, the El Rancho Vegas opened on the square, with Thomas Hull footing the bill. He leased the casino to several different groups over the years, which included Wilbur Clark, who took advice from Lansky and Siegel. Wilbur told everyone he was a bar and hotel owner from San Diego. He forgot to mention that he worked with Tony Carnero when Carnero was skimming cash for Siegel. He also glossed over the mob's investment in 2 earlier casinos he fronted. Probably just bad memory. Benny Binion, fresh from Dallas and new owner of the Westerner Casino in Vegas, brought his own muscle to town. When he had trouble with Johnny Beasley, bodyguard Cliff Helms killed him. Helms claimed self-defense. Out on the Strip, Bugsy Siegel took William Wilkerson to the woodshed, stealing 90% of his property in initial construction, and then took 100% of his dreams while bilking 70 contributors to his Nevada Properties Corporation. He promised them 100% of the Flamingo Casino while doing the proverbial beg, borrow, and steal act to get more cash from families in Chicago, New York, and Miami. Then he sold the highly profitable El Cortez to finish building. Lucky Luciano was not amused. When the Flamingo finally opened, it lost money. So Bugsy was shot dead. His picture got splashed across papers worldwide. By then, Chicago was calling the shots, and Gus Greenbaum took over the Flamingo Casino minutes after he got the news Bugsy was gone. Davy Berman came along as acting manager. Alderman, who had been paid a full-time salary at the SS Rex Casino downtown, while only in the club 5 minutes each week to collect his check, joined the group. Meanwhile, Wilbur Clark met with Mo Dalitz from Cleveland to finance Desert Inn. The FBI was watching Siegel and Lansky, reporting on Luciano in Italy, and verifying what happened in mob casinos in Cuba, but barely noted that Dalitz was about to open another mob casino on the Strip. The Dalitz group shared with Wilbur Clark, who did most of the work. They shared with Cleveland, so there wouldn't be any hits coming from home, or New York, and with Chicago, so they could coexist with the Flamingo, Las Vegas Club, and El Rancho Skim. Johnny Roselli came to town to watch over the mob's golden goose and to put a little finesse into the muscle job Marshal Caifano was set for. The Flamingo and the Desert Inn were veritable gold mines, and the Thunderbird fell to Meyer and Jake Lansky after the owners ran short of cash on their very first night of gaming. Soon to come were the Dunes, the Sands, and the Sahara, and of course Marshal Caifano, the thug killer from Chicago, to make sure there were no problems with all that cash getting back to Tony Accardo and Sam Giancana, who distributed to Kansas City and Milwaukee. At the Riviera, Gus Greenbaum was addicted to drugs, gambling, and cocktail waitresses. Johnny Roselli told him to keep his fingers clean when he was caught stealing. Gus went home to Phoenix. When he refused to return, Caifano visited him. Gus and his wife were found dead later in their home. No suspects, no charges. Jake Lansky moved to the Sahara as a manager. The Dunes was run by Major Riddle from Chicago, and the Sands had Joseph Doc Stature from New Jersey inside the casino, sharing with Frank Costello in New York. Everyone was happy, especially Mo Dalitz, after the chief executive and driving partner in Stardust, Tony Carnero, died mysteriously while playing craps at the Desert Inn and was immediately shipped to Los Angeles in a casket. Then, Stardust became the most successful skim joint ever, but not until the Chicago outfit got a big chunk of the action without risking any cash. Marshal Caifano epitomized the Mafia goon, trying to improve his gangster persona by donning flashy, expensive suits, but still saying, "Yous guys better do what I tells ya." His reign of terror ended shortly after a suspicious fire destroyed the El Rancho Casino, just after he was thrown off the property by Belden Kettleman for kidnapping, again, a chorus girl and demanding a free room. Caifano was the first entry in Nevada's Black Book of persons barred from all state casinos. The New York mob was far from Las Vegas, but with help from Lansky and Phil Castell, they finagled the Tropicana Casino from builder Ben Jaffe of Miami. Castell had previously managed casinos and slot machines in New Orleans for Frank Costello in New York. Once open, skim was rampant. The casino had 2 sets of overlords and bagmen to get the cash to Costello. But it was Costello who needed the guarding. He was shot in the head leaving his apartment in Central Park West. In the 1960s, Howard Hughes bought most of the mob's casinos, starting with the Desert Inn. Kirk Kerkorian purchased the Flamingo, but Chicago held tight to the Stardust and a few other good earners. With Marshal Caifano unable to prowl the back rooms of the mob's casinos, he left the state and was quickly charged with extortion. He did 10 years in prison. Taking his place in the muscle role was Tony the Ant Spilatro, an associate in Chicago of Frank Lefty Rosenthal, a bookie who could talk his way into and out of any situation. Frank Bompancero, a hitman tied to Chicago and L.A., took meetings with Mo Dalitz. So did Jimmy the Weasel Fradiano. They both worked with Johnny Roselli. Fradiano killed at least 3 Las Vegas problem children, including Russian Louis Strauss. All hits, of course, were made outside the state of Nevada. After taking the reins for Chicago at the Stardust, Lefty connected with Nick Savella in Kansas City, who put a new false front in charge and helped Lefty get a grip on the count rooms at the Fremont, Hacienda, and the Marina casinos, after using frontman Alan Glick to purchase them with loans from the Teamsters Central States Pension Fund. Later, Glick was summoned to Kansas City, Missouri, where Savella explained, "You now owe the family $1.2 million for getting those loans." In 1975, Marty Bisseri, Caesar's Palace pit boss, asked Alan Glick for his finder's fee for connecting him to Nick and the Teamsters. Glick went to Rosenthal went to Spilatro, and Marty Bisseri was killed in Caesar's parking lot. When the Alan Glick deal went bad, Spilatro and Bompancero killed investor Tamara Rand. Afterward, Fradiano popped the bomb. Marshal Caifano died shortly after being released from prison. Johnny Roselli disappeared and was subsequently found in a decomposed state inside a 55-gallon drum floating near Miami. Tony the Ant and his brother Michael were executed by the Chicago outfit on June 14, 1986, and buried in a cornfield near Enos, Indiana. By then, most Las Vegas casinos were owned by large corporations and no longer controlled by the mob. And that's the scoop. Thanks for watching Nevada Gaming History's look at Mafia Muscle in Las Vegas.